Let me say a word about Social Security. When Social Security was developed in the 30s, its goal was to cut down on senior poverty. And when it was developed, 50% of seniors lived in poverty. Today, poverty among seniors is too high, but that number is 10%. Social Security has done exactly what it was designed to do.
Welcome back, everybody. Here's a daily news report and fourth stimulus check update. President Biden is now willing to drop the corporate tax rate to get an infrastructure deal done. And White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki says that President Biden is willing to pass more stimulus relief for struggling Americans.
Let me quote Larry Summers, who was Bill Clinton's Secretary of the Treasury and Barack Obama's head of the Council of Economic Advisors. He said at the beginning of the year that the previous package, the so-called rescue package, would create a wave of inflation. And only this week he reiterated that happened just as he predicted, but it also included this extra bonus on top of state unemployment insurance.
But still, Joe Biden does not have a deadline for an infrastructure deal. And the White House even said that he is willing to drop his corporate tax hike in exchange for getting a deal done sooner.
You see a lot of states just kind of taking away help for people who are struggling. We don't think that's, makes a lot of sense in this environment.
I think this report shows that the unemployment benefit is not necessarily keeping people out of the workforce. What it's doing is supporting families that are still out of work.
Now, there are other factors at work, such as school closings, but the $300 a week so-called bonus is the biggest one, and the sooner they get rid of it, that'll help alleviate this critical labor shortage.
In fact, folks, more than 15.4 million Americans are still receiving benefits under the various programs, including two put in place specifically to address crisis-related displacements. The claims numbers are expected to continue the decline as more workers return to their jobs and as states curtail benefits. Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer just announced a plan to allow people to work part-time and continue receiving unemployment benefits simultaneously. The Michigan Economic Jumpstart Plan will be made possible with leftover federal funding from the American Rescue Plan in Michigan's budget, which allocated millions of dollars in funding to states in an effort to help Americans recover from the devastation of the crisis. During a Thursday press conference, Whitmer stated that Michiganders working full-time would not be eligible to continue receiving unemployment benefits. Governor Whitmer said, "We want to make sure we are giving people all of the incentives to get back to work so that they can take care of themselves and their families and not forego other opportunities that can help them get back on their feet." What are your thoughts on Governor Whitmer's plan, everybody? And should the unemployment benefits continue? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Whitmer also announced the Michigan Bigger Paycheck Plan, which would give $300 million in grants to employers in an effort to incentivize raising wages to $15 per hour for at least 3 months. What are your thoughts on this, everybody? Will President Biden send out a fourth stimulus check this year? Tell me your thoughts on this in the comments below.
Basically, if you look at the infrastructure and all that into it, they're looking at something. There's a jobs portion of that, and there's just traditional infrastructure. So if they're going to split that apart, and they've talked about doing that too. I haven't gotten intricately into that with the White House yet, and I'm glad that Shelley's doing, and she's doing a great job out there trying to find that sweet spot, if you will. So she'll report back. She's part of our G20 group, 10 Democrats, 10 Republicans. She'll report back next week. We'll see where she is on this and what we can do to assist and help get it over the line. It needs to be done. We need to do something in a bipartisan way. We can't continue on these types of projects because we were able to bring everything to fruition working through a
Now, everybody, White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki said that Biden intends to continue negotiations next week with Republicans led by Senator Shelley Moore Capito, and said the White House is open to a wide range of potential ways to pay for a bill as Republicans balk at tax hikes. At her daily press briefing, Jen Psaki said, "We're going to keep our options open to see what paths we can move forward on." The Washington Post reported Thursday that President Biden told Senator Capito during their meeting at the White House that he might be willing to take his proposed 21% to 28% corporate tax hike off the table.
Or maybe saying, let us be very clear. Social Security is not going broke. Let me repeat. Social Security is not going broke. Today, Social Security has a surplus in the trust fund. Mr. President, the average Social Security benefit today is just $14,000 a year. And as someone who will be the next ranking member of the Budget Committee, I intend to do everything I can, not only to oppose vigorously any efforts to cut Social Security, I'm going to do everything that I can to expand Social Security benefits. And, in fact, the best way to expand Social Security is to ask the wealthiest people in our country to pay more into the system by scrapping the cap on income that is subject to the Social Security payroll tax. Mr. President, as you know, right now, a billionaire pays the same amount into Social Security as someone who makes $117,000 a year. You got a multimillionaire here, somebody's making $50 million, somebody's making $117,000. They both contribute the same amount into the Social Security trust fund. This is regressive, this is unfair, this is absurd. If we lifted this cap and applied the Social Security payroll tax to income above $250,000, not $117,000, but $250,000 a year, we could not only extend the solvency of Social Security for decades to come, which is what we want to do, but we could also provide the resources necessary to expand Social Security benefits. And that is exactly what we should be doing, and that, in fact, is what the American people want us to do. Mr. President, an August 2014 poll by Lake Research Partners asked likely voters if they support the idea of, quote, increasing Social Security benefits and paying for that increase by having wealthy Americans pay the same rate into Social Security as everybody else, end of quotes. And interestingly, this is what the poll found. 90% of Democratic voters said they support the idea, and 75% strongly support that idea of lifting the cap. 73% of independent voters support that idea. 55% strongly support it. 73% of Republican voters support that idea. 47% strongly support it. So there is, for that idea, enormously strong support across the political spectrum, Democrats, independents,